This episode is sponsored by the Freedom Builder System. For just $57 a month, you can get my custom Biz Builder AI, plus membership in the Freedom Builder community. Think of it as having me, your personal business coach and corporate escape Sherpa, right in your pocket 24/7. Biz Builder AI is your business building tool with 5 Sherpas in one powerful tool. It's a coach in AI form that helps you choose the right idea, create offers, build your financial runway, and market yourself without the cringe. And the Freedom Builder membership gives you the training, community, and accountability to actually follow through. So you're never doing this alone. Think of it as clarity, tools, and support all in one for less than the cost of a dinner out and a fraction of what you'd spend on private coaching. Check the show notes for the link, and let's get into today's episode. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome to the Gen X Remix. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Tabatha. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you because mindset is one of my favorite topics. We all have those ups and downs, and anytime we can learn a new tip or strategy, I think it just makes us stronger as people and helps us make sure that we don't stay in weird places for too long, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, we're going to get started with my very favorite question, and that is, what is your remix story?
Yeah, I have kind of an ongoing multiple remix story, I think is how I would answer that. So I have switched up my career and my life a few times, and I'm definitely always a proponent of people doing what you need to do to be happy doing what you're doing. I mean, we know you're not happy every day of a job. It's a job. But I started out in international business and worked in the airline field, actually doing pricing and marketing for a long time. And then realized that the part I liked about my job was the teaching and the training of my team, and had kids. All that happened at the same time. And I switched completely and became a high school teacher.
Oh.
And I had to go back. I had to take a few classes. I had to figure out how I was going to do that. But I taught math and economics. And that's actually what I had studied in college. So it did make sense. I did that for 12 years as my kids were growing up. And then I hit burnout, which, I mean, my heart just always goes out to teachers. It's just not an easy job. And so then it was time to switch again. And I had started a business on the side at the same time. And I was dabbling into personal development because I realized I had no idea how to be an entrepreneur. And so that led me to becoming a coach, starting a podcast, and led me to where I am now. But it's been a bit of a windy path.
I love a good windy path story. They're the best. And also, you're a woman after my own heart. Starting that business before you leave, I think it's so important just because it gives you that extra time and stability. And we all have that little bit of perfectionism in us, but it lets us test out and experiment with things while we're still getting that great paycheck. So I love that you did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you leave a job, well, speaking for myself anyway, if you leave a job and the paycheck stops, this feeling of desperation that starts to creep in about that, even if, like I do, you might have a spouse who has an income, that desperation starts to make us make different decisions and sort of act weird. And it's just not good for whatever we're trying to build.
Oh my gosh, so much. I call it the spin cycle. We just get in that, like it's constant, it's a hamster wheel. But for me, I'm like, it's a spin cycle. I think mine goes the other way because I'm left-handed. I don't know, but it's just, there's so many. Well, what if I try this? What if I try that? What if I try this other thing? And, when you're becoming a coach and you're working with coaches and they're telling you just show up on one channel. And we listen to that and we're like, well,
Mm.
this one channel's not working, constantly tapping the mic. Is this thing even on? And then that
Yeah.
that desperation starts coming out. And even though, and it's hard to explain, but I think you're going to get this because you were in it. It's hard to explain how even though there's money and financial security and stability, because we're fortunate enough to have someone else in the home making an income, it doesn't quite feel good. It feels like I've got
Mhm.
to get to this level of success, which is how we've always measured our success, titles and paychecks. So different.
Yes. Especially if you're listening and you're someone who has, gone through school wanting to get good grades and then got the right degree from the right school and got the right, what is it called? Rating from your boss at your job. And, we're always going for these like rankings and numbers. And so then not to have that is like the rug out from under us. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much. And I think a lot of that is Gen X conditioning, especially for women, right? You've got to be the overachiever. You've got to be the best. You've got to work the hardest. You could, would, should do all these things. And so we do because it's just ingrained in us. And then weirdly, I think sometimes one day we stop and we're going, well, wait a minute, how did I get here? And is this even what I want? I'm
Yeah.
curious for
Yeah.
you, when you started that side business, kind of what was on your mind? What were you thinking was going to be that best next step?
That's a pretty insightful question because I started that business. If I recall correctly, I was around 40 at the time. I'm in my mid 50s now. And so it was a while ago, but I was teaching and I had been teaching for a while and I liked it and could not imagine doing it still at 65 because
Mm.
from 40 to 65 is 25 years. Like we think, oh, we've hit midlife when we've gotten to 40 something, and that's true, but there's a lot of time still to go in a typical working life. And I couldn't imagine not having the option to do something else. I guess that's how I would say it. So I just wanted to give myself an option in case I wanted something different.
Yeah, I love that. And then also the fact that you pointed out that coaching with your employees when you were in your original role, and then as a teacher, coaching is something
Oh
you have to
gosh.
be pretty natural at.
Yes, yes. All kinds of crazy scenarios, all kinds of conversations, positive and negative. Yes, yes. Teaching teenagers is an adventure.
I raised one. He's 30 now. We all survived it, but I agree. Oh my gosh. So you went the direction of mindset. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing in your business now and how it lights you up every day.
Absolutely. So I have a coaching business and I host a podcast as well. And my podcast is Mind Your Midlife. So, mindset for midlife
Love.
women. I think we're very similar in that way. And in my coaching business, I mostly work with women in their 40s and 50s who are, I mean, I'm working who are feeling sort of stuck and frustrated about where they are. And it tends to be either a relationship issue or a work issue. And we're trying to figure out, okay, where do you want to go if you have this 20 or 25 more years of your work life, or you have, these relationships that you want them to be okay, but you're not sure what to do about it, or you're trying to grow a business, then how do we get out of this I'm stuck thing that I'm telling myself all the time in my head? And I'm actually in the process of getting certified as a what's called a being profile practitioner so that I can start my clients with a profile of a questionnaire basically about how you're being in the world and how our moods are controlling us and how that's leading us to make our own decisions. So we'll see where that goes too.
I love that. It's so important. And I'm curious to know if you hear this from midlife women, because I hear it pretty frequently. I'm just going to ride this out until retirement. Even though they're miserable, even though they hate their lives, every day they got to get up and go do the same old thing. Do you hear that? And if
Oh
so, what is
gosh.
your advice?
I mean, gosh, what is my advice? So, yes, I do hear that over and over and over. And I'm thinking of one particular coaching client right now who is a little bit unhappy in both her relationship and her job, but really doesn't feel like she can make a change because she's more worried about her kids than herself, which I think is probably also a common thing. We worry a lot about our kids, and she wants to make sure they're okay and doing their thing. And they've had a bumpy road of it. And it, I, the advice is always going to depend on the situation. But what I try to help women do is understand what the feeling is that's kind of taking over at any given time, because we don't get a lot of practice with that. I many years ago, I was seeing a therapist for sort of something unrelated, and she said to me, "Well, how are you feeling about this?" And I said, "I don't know." What do you mean, how am I feeling? So just even putting an emotion word to how do I feel right now takes practice. And then we learn that's creating that emotion, because usually there's something in there that is, why are you always doing this, or I can't believe you're in this situation, or some junk that we're telling ourselves in our minds, that even recognizing it is a big step forward, because a lot of times when we recognize it, we can say, oh, that's not true. Like, what why am I telling myself that? So that's kind of where we start.
Okay, I love that. Uh, Also visited a therapist a few years ago, and that question, "So how are you feeling?" I'm like, nobody ever asked me that. I don't know. And we
Yeah.
grew up in Gen X, we're 80s, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody asked us how we were feeling. Nobody cared. And now it's
So
like,
true.
oh. And then we realize once we start talking how much is bottled up and how it gets in our way. And it becomes that voice in the back of our head when we're feeling kind of icky or stuck and just like, oh, well, I can't.
Yeah.
I've got to use all logic. I can't use feeling. And that I think holds us in place a lot longer than it's healthy.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, when I ask someone how they're feeling, usually the answer I get is, I feel like she is doing blah, blah, blah. That's not a feeling. Yeah, we're like you said, we're using logic, we're putting it in a sentence, but that's not a feeling. And actually, this is how I came up with the freebie that I offer, which is a wheel of emotions, and then kind of how you think this through and how you figure out what thoughts are causing those emotions. So if you're listening and you want that, you're welcome to. It's CherylPFisher.com/story cycle. That kind of helps women to figure that out.
Awesome. We'll make sure that that is in the show notes, making myself a note to make sure I grab that. That is amazing. And the other thing that I find really interesting is women in our stage of life tend to not ask for help. They'll try to figure it all out on their own. So tell me, when does a client finally realize that you're there, and where are they at in the process when they come to you for help?
Yeah. I'm trying to think, what is the most common scenario? I think they have to reach a level of frustration that, and this is kind of sad to say, but a level of frustration that is kind of taking over their day and maybe their night. We don't always sleep well at this point in life either.
True, true, true.
Just this kind of ruminating or always about something, or frustration, or it has to get bad before I think we feel like we're worth spending money on ourselves for coaching, or we're worth actually reaching out to someone. And I find, actually, for mindset coaching, one of the biggest challenges is helping women to realize that they actually do have issues that coaching could help them with. Because as you said, we want to just figure it out. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay. We're out doing our thing. We're okay. But it's when that frustration level kind of takes over your day that is when I think people act typically.
Yeah, I see that very similarly in the business building, corporate escape kind of space, where it's just gotten to that point where it's like, okay, this whisper is no longer a whisper. It's screaming at me, but I don't know how. I don't know where. I don't know what. And I'm like, oh. come to the other side. Let me help you. No need to ruminate on that anymore. No need to have those, I should have said this in that meetings. No more. Let's just get you set up for success there and then start building here and get you moving.
Yeah.
But I do see that. I see that
Yeah.
it takes a while. Like I do it myself sometimes. Like I have to be in this point of extreme discomfort to the point of I'm almost making myself sick sometimes before I'm like, okay, I have to go ask. And then you go talk to somebody and they're like, well, yeah, everybody goes through that. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How did I not know?
Of course.
Why does nobody talk about it? We just walk around with big smiles on our face, like everything's cool.
And, to your point, I think maybe that is a Gen X thing. I think we sort of, I saw somewhere the other day, somebody said we basically raised ourselves. And I had a mom who was like a part-time stay-at-home mom. So it wasn't as if I was totally on my own, but still we were pretty darn independent and we did our thing. So maybe that's where that comes from to a certain extent.
Yeah, kind of a little toxic independence, I call it, but also being, really there and reliable for everyone else but ourselves sometimes. And, my mom worked when I was younger into middle school, and then she started doing daycare when she had my sister. So it was then from a little bit of independence to, oh, now I help run a daycare.
Oh, gosh.
Which made me realize I never wanted to have 6 kids in my house ever at the same time when I was an adult.
I see that.
Good on those that do. Me, I was like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. We had some neighbors that I used to babysit for when I was a teenager that had 6 kids. And that was an adventure too.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I can't imagine. I love the people that have all the cute kids and do their thing, but I'm like, oh, short doses.
Yep.
Oh. So as I was preparing for our interview, one of the questions that kind of stuck with me was, what if it's difficult for me to identify the emotion I'm feeling or the thoughts in my head? I think a lot of us go through that. So what's your advice there?
So what I try to teach women to do is slow down a little bit. Honestly, we race through everything. We're multitasking all the time. I don't think we really necessarily want to know what's going on in our head or what we're feeling in our body. And so it's kind of slowing down and maybe even building in a habit of pausing. And so I've had some clients put like a sticky note on their computer that says pause. So when they first sit down in the morning, okay, we're going to take stock. Or I have one client who every time she goes up or down the stairs in her house, she like thinks, okay, how am I feeling right now? Just some like trigger that we can start to teach ourselves to just stop and just kind of take stock, like, how are my shoulders? How's my jaw? Am I clenching? Are my shoulders really tight? Do I feel anything in my body anywhere? And am I like frustrated about something? What's going on? Am I happy? Just kind of pause and take stock of what's going on. And that right there is a huge first step because we just don't do that. And then often, if you can pause and you can recognize it, then you can just sort of listen to yourself for a minute and you're saying all kinds of craziness in your head often.
So much. That makes perfect sense. I love that just short pause because a lot of times the excuse is, I don't have time. I have, my philosophy with building your business before you leave corporate is 1 hour a day, 5 days a week is really the amount of time you need to spend to start building. And I hear, I don't have an hour. Like, okay, well, let's do 15 minutes in the morning. Let's do 15 minutes, like during a little breaky poo in between meetings, maybe a half hour at night instead of watching a TV show, right? Find the time. But it's so important to just find those micro moments where we can stop and think, like, how am I feeling? Instead of just racing through and checking off the checklist and going on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So,
And if somebody is in that situation where you're building a business on the side, it's even more important because if we have that story going that we don't have time, I mean, I've been in these shoes and you certainly have helped many, many, many people with this, then we're not going to do it. No matter if we have hours of free time, if we tell ourselves we don't, then we don't.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It's such a big deal. I always joke because I'm like, all this time I was thinking back then, right? I don't have time. I just don't have time. And then I did a time audit and I was like, oh, girl, you're playing Candy Crush on 3 devices so you don't ever run out of lives at night because that's how you wind down. I'm like, we're not winding down. Winding down, I could be sitting there visualizing or even journaling or just, having that talk, kind of like you said, like, how am I feeling right now? What voices am I hearing right now? Not
Yeah.
like the wrong kind of voices, but that voice we have.
Your own. Yes.
I don't hear voices for people that just heard that. They're like, oh gosh, is she okay? I'm okay. I promise. But we don't pause. So I love that advice. What if I am feeling or somebody is feeling really stuck in their midlife? What's the first thing they should do? Maybe once they've identified that emotion, what would be the next thing they should do?
I I like to have us sit down and think about what we actually enjoy, what we how we like to spend our time, what we have enthusiasm for. And this could apply to work too. So if you realized that you're frustrated and you've identified that you're telling yourself all day that, I hate my job, why am I still here? Just to give an example,
Yeah.
then what do you actually want? Because sometimes we get stuck in what we don't want. And maybe there are aspects of what you're frustrated about that are good. Maybe you want more of that and less of this. But I don't think that the actual exercise of figuring out, what do I want? What do I want my day to look like? What do I want my friendships to look like? What do I want my body to look like? Whatever it is, we don't really do that. And so kind of calming ourselves down and just giving ourselves a minute, as you were kind of just saying, to brainstorm, what would a great day be for me, or what would a great relationship look like for me, is really powerful.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's really interesting how, and I fall out of the habit of this, but just journaling, how much of a difference sometimes it makes because let's face it, I'm 55 also. So when, we've spent all these years maybe raising kids, being everything everyone needs, building that career, being
Yeah,
that spouse, we don't always know what we like or what we want. We know what everybody else likes. Oh, they like Italian. Great. Let's go
absolutely.
there. Ugh. Or
Absolutely.
and that's just a simple example, but we've gotten so used to what kind of movies we watch based on other people's choices because
Yeah.
we need something that's family friendly or that everyone's going to love. And maybe, I don't know, I'm a nerd. I'm a total science nerd. Like I would love to watch a documentary all day long. So it's like, oh, that's what I like. I don't want to watch this kind of movie today. Or any of that, and we forget. And then to your point, in a job, looking at the things we don't like, it's so much easier because they're glaring in our face.
Yes.
But then sitting down, maybe early in the morning and looking at your day, like what are the things I have to look forward to in my day?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate a meeting where we're talking about metrics, but you know what, I'm going to get to see my pal Joan in that meeting, so I'm going to make sure I sit by Joan and that we
Yeah,
schedule a coffee
exactly.
date so I've got something to look forward to while I'm sitting there. Just simple
Yeah.
things. It's so good.
Exactly. And you mentioned movies, and that's a good example. Sometimes even we need a bit of practice with this. So if you're in a group and people are trying to decide, what are we going to watch, or what are we going to eat, or what are we going to order for dinner, a lot of us are in the habit of being like, as you said, whatever you want, I'm fine. So practice. No,
Yeah.
I would like to have Chinese food or whatever, and just practice speaking up and for what you really want. And that's like a muscle that needs a little bit of work.
Yeah. I love that in the group setting too, because I get so annoyed. I hate the, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Where do you want
I
to go? What do you want to do? I'm like, oh my gosh. So in my head, there's always a plan. So that as soon as someone asks, I'm like, I was thinking about this. What do you think? It's just, we don't have to always do it my way, but it saves about a half an hour of what do you want to do? And
Yes.
practicing, it's uncomfortable sometimes. I mean, people stop
Yes.
asking me what I want to eat because it will always be Mexican. But getting used to just saying, I'd really like to do this today. You
Mhm.
might find that your friends or family are pleasantly surprised because someone took control and made a decision. And you're going to have the best day
Yeah.
ever because it's going your way.
Yeah. I had an interesting experience with my husband about this recently because we were saying we need to think of some things we both like to do or things that we can do together. What can we do together? And he said, well, how about this and how about that? And I was like, yeah, we could do those things. And he said, well, what are your suggestions? And that was a complete blank. I had no ideas at all. And since then, I have thought of some things, but I had to actually go through the same exercise. Like, what do I actually like to do if we're going to go out during the day and do a thing? And what would I want you to do with me? And it took me a little bit of time to think about that, but it's a really good exercise to go through for sure.
Oh, so good. Yeah, it's just the things that seem like they should be so simple. Sometimes they're not. And that's really great advice. Oh my gosh, I love that. So, as our listeners are thinking probably a lot about what you just said, what is the best way for them to connect with you to learn a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is CherylPFischer.com, and that's Fisher with an SCH. I always have to say that. But on there, you can find the podcast, you can find the coaching options, you can find books I recommend, and all sorts of things. So definitely there. And then I'm on social media, mostly Instagram and a bit of LinkedIn, really, but Cheryl P. Fischer again. So same place everywhere. And then, of course, come check out the podcast, Mind Your Midlife.
I look forward to hearing more Mind Your Midlife episodes. So it's so good. And then, Cheryl, you've shared some really great tips and strategies for our listener. What is a bit of final advice or inspiration you can share?
I am going to say your audience, we're probably all around the same age. This is Gen X. I'm going to say that in this stage of life, when all sorts of changes are happening all the time, take just a little bit better care of yourself. And just the small things matter, whether it's of your body, maybe making like a little bit healthier choices sometimes, or maybe it's your relationship, or maybe it's how you're doing your work, but a little bit more paying attention to how you're taking care of yourself has really huge implications, especially at this stage of life, which can be really stressful.
Yeah, I love that so much. It's so easy, especially an entrepreneur or if you're working full time in a corporate job or whatever it is, it's so easy to take care of everybody else and forget those little
Mhm.
tiny things that we can do to make ourselves feel good and feel better and more confident. That is
Yeah, and
outstanding
it doesn't
advice.
have to be a big oops, sorry.
No, you're good. It's outstanding advice was all I was saying. You're good.
It doesn't have to be a big thing. I think we don't do anything for ourselves because we think we have to set out this whole big thing, spa day or whatever. It's the little things. Little things
Yeah.
often teach us that we can do those little things often. It's a self-perpetuating habit.
Yeah, absolutely. Some days it's just plucking that one gray eyebrow that's driving you
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
That's the thing. Stop looking at it, sister. Just take the tweezers and handle it.
I love it.
Self care. Oh my gosh, Cheryl, this was so much fun. I'm glad that you stopped by the Gen X Remix, and we look forward to staying in touch and continuing to support you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
This episode is sponsored by the Freedom Builder System. For just $57 a month, you can get my custom Biz Builder AI, plus membership in the Freedom Builder community. Think of it as having me, your personal business coach and corporate escape Sherpa, right in your pocket 24/7. Biz Builder AI is your business building tool with 5 Sherpas in one powerful tool. It's a coach in AI form that helps you choose the right idea, create offers, build your financial runway, and market yourself without the cringe. And the Freedom Builder membership gives you the training, community, and accountability to actually follow through. So you're never doing this alone. Think of it as clarity, tools, and support all in one for less than the cost of a dinner out and a fraction of what you'd spend on private coaching. Check the show notes for the link, and let's get into today's episode.